Alright guys, epic fucking slayers here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing Mass Effect's Andromeda, which was released on the 23rd of March and is the 4th title in the Mass Effect series. Before we start with the review, if you could please drop a like on the video if you do enjoy it and subscribe if you're new, it would be much appreciated. Let's get into it. So I want to start off by saying that I've never actually played a Mass Effect game before. This is the first one I've ever played. And so for me it was a completely new experience, although I did look into the lore before I actually purchased the game because I felt as though I owed the series at least that little bit before I played the game, just to sort of I can understand it, because I realise there's quite a deep sort of lore and rich history with this game, as I'm sure some of you die-hard fans can appreciate. So that may have decided, may have swayed my decision a little bit. Potentially, I'm sure for people who are hardcore players, they may enjoy it more than perhaps I did, and I'm sorry if that gives away kind of what my score will be. I am going to rate this out of 10, 5 being an average, and I'll go over sort of the good and the bad parts with you guys. So let's just start off with the good guys. Now, I'm not I've got no script, I'm kind of just going to go from my memory here, because I think that's the best way to go through it. So let's start off with how the game actually looks. Now, the game looks pretty amazing, I'll be honest. The worlds look very, very good, and what for me really stuck out was, if I was in, say, one of these sort of desert worlds, I can't remember the name of the world, Eos I think it is, if I'm in the desert world, it actually feels very barren, which is how it should feel. There's quite long lines of sight, it looks quite open, which was very good. The textures look really great. I think when you're, exploring, the game looks wonderful, really, really good. And again, when you go to some of the other planets which are full of forestation, there's one planet in particular I've got in my mind, but I can't remember the name of it. It's completely, there's so much forestation, and it looks amazing. There's so many colours. It looks quite sort of like jungle-like. It looks like, you're kind of, there's loads of rocks around, and you can't really see too far, and I think that's really good. It was quite immersive in that respect. So for me, the world itself, the worlds themselves look very, very good. There's clearly a lot to explore in this game, and let me just say that I did the main sort of quest. The main quest took about 30 hours or so. I did the main quest, and I've done none of the side missions, really. I've done a couple, and I'll get into that. But so that this is my experience with the game, the main quest, going through those worlds. I've not really explored all the worlds, obviously, and that's kind of where I am. So yeah, the world engine looks very, very good. So yeah, big thumbs up for that. Moving on to combat. The combat in this game is very, very good, and it's one thing actually that made me want to purchase the game, because I've been kind of getting into combat like this. I used to play a lot of like Call of Duty and stuff like this, but I've been kind of getting into these sort of games, third-person shooters, as it were. So for me, the combat looked really, really good in the trailers, and in the game it's just as good. It's really fluent, it's quite fast-paced, and there's a lot of different weapons to use, which is really, really cool. You've got a jetpack, so you can fly around, you can go invisible through walls, and it's very, very good for that. The combat's very free-flowing. The enemies are pretty good in that a lot of the time, instead of just sitting behind, this is kind of going on to enemies now, but it's part of combat, instead of sitting behind barriers and shooting over the top, they would actually approach you. The AI was very good for that, so that actually made the combat a little bit more sort of difficult, and I really like that. So very happy with the combat elements of the game. I would say actually the combat was the main thing that kept me playing this game, to be honest. With that said, moving on to abilities, there's so many different abilities in this game, which is a good and a bad thing, to be honest. The good thing is there's so many different abilities, there's so many different ways that you can build your character, but there's no real direction, unfortunately. You kind of just get a list of everything and you just choose stuff, but it doesn't really point out exactly what the best combinations are, which I guess is your own sort of learning development. But ultimately, I think there's just too much in one go to start with. I think it's something where you should sort of progress through the game and you get different abilities as you progress, and then you can decide to either use the new ones or replace the old ones, that sort of thing, and at the end you can choose whatever you want, effectively. But the abilities wise, they're amazing, they're really well refined. I find they're all pretty good, and they all do their job very, very well, which is really, really cool. So very happy with the abilities part. I mean, those are the main sort of, for me, that's the main good points of this game. The world looks amazing, the combat's very fluid, very, very good, and the abilities, clearly they've taken a lot of time to look into these abilities and refine them, because they're very, very good. They work every time, and the way they should work, which unfortunately for other games, that's not always the case. Now, with that said, I realised when I bought this game, there was a lot of sort of what can I say, negative reviews about sort of animations. And I thought, do you know what, I'll buy this game. Animations never bothered me whatsoever in the cutscenes, never had a problem with that. I've played some games before where the animations haven't been too good, but I'll be completely honest, I never realised just how much this game relies on sort of you connecting with the characters. I never really, and I'm personally myself, I don't connect with computer characters very well anyway, unlike I do with movie characters, for example. So for me, I really need it to look quite realistic, and I didn't realise that until I actually purchased the game. I got onto the story mode. I was going through it the first couple of hours. I'm like, oh yeah, I can deal with it. But then after a while, honestly, the facial expressions are truly terrible. I've never actually seen such bad facial expressions in my entire life. All the characters just look like dead, which, you know, people are saying, you know, well, it's just, you know, it's characters, it's animations, who cares? It matters so much because the game itself, you know, has this really rich story, but you can't connect to the characters to appreciate the story. And that's the biggest problem for me. This is the first story mode game where I've actually played a proper story and got into it ever, like in very long time. And I thought the story was good, but I couldn't relate to the characters. I couldn't, you know, when there was a part where they should be angry, they weren't angry because you just couldn't tell from the facial expressions. When they should have been sad, you couldn't tell, and it's just not right. And so I couldn't relate to the characters, and because of that, I couldn't fully appreciate the story, which, from what I can tell, Mass Effect is renowned for having very good story. The dialogue was, I say it was okay. There were some good parts, there were some bad parts. I didn't like the fact that they included a joke sort of every once in a while, that sort of gimmicky. I didn't like it. I actually wanted to take this game very seriously, and that kind of put me off a bit. And mix that with the bad facial expressions, it kind of looked like a bit of a joke, to be honest. Some of the characters were truly outrageous for that. So for me, the story was okay, but it would have been made a lot better if the game seemed more realistic in the players themselves, in the actual animations. Because for me, for a game that's obviously spent so much money and been in development for so many years, to have facial expressions be so awful is an abomination for gaming. We are in 2017, and there's games that have just recently come out, like Horizon, which looks fantastic, and that's what I would expect from this game. Something that looked amazing, even in the animations. In the animation, facial animations from the players. So that really was a downer for me. Going back to the abilities, which I mentioned earlier, there really is just. There's not too many, it's just they're all in a massive list, and I've got no idea, no direction of what to choose. And there's a couple of things as well. The AVPs, which I believe like pods, they give you like different currency once you upgrade them and stuff. They're pretty crap. I have no idea which one to pick, no idea which ones to use, so that wasn't very good. There's strike teams, which basically you choose a strike team, they go out and do stuff, and then you get XP. Again, there's no sort of real interaction there. Pretty crap in my opinion. One thing I never tried out, and I'll be honest, is multiplayer. And the reason I never tried multiplayer is because me personally, I'm a PvP man. I like playing against other people, and I don't particularly like playing multiplayer games where I got to play against AI. It doesn't really interest me very much, so I didn't even delve into that. Although I've heard it's actually quite good, I didn't really go into that. And this review is solely based around the main story, the main game, apart from that. Now, regarding the side missions, I played a few of them. They were okay. But for me, they just added nothing to the story, which was pretty bad. And it's a real shame because from what I can tell, if you want to learn a lot about a character, you really have to delve into those side missions, go all the way down the line, and then you learn about that character. And I just don't like how much grind there is involved to know a character. I completed the whole story, and I could tell you probably nothing about the characters. I got about, especially the team, the actual team that you roll with, there's no connection there. I don't feel like if one of them dies, I don't feel bad, you know, and that's because you don't really get that connection to the characters, and that's because of the story. The story doesn't allow for that because the main story is very focused on sort of one area. With that said, this is a bit of a spoiler, so if you're watching this and you're not played, listening to this, watching this, whatever you're doing, if you've not played the game and you're looking to get it, then close your ears. But for me, the way the main story ended was really bad. I didn't like the fact that you didn't get to fight the Archon, which for the whole thing was like, you know, that's who was in your way. I didn't like not fighting him. I wanted to fight the Archon, and in the end you don't really fight him. You fight some electrical machine, which is pretty crap to me. It's just a little room with... It wasn't good. It wasn't good. So, overall, that's kind of my review, to be honest. I mean, there's good parts, there's bad parts. I think the bad parts, unfortunately, outweigh the good parts. I mean, do I think I've got my money's worth? Because I didn't pay £45, $60, whatever it is for this game. No, I don't. At best, I would say £20 I'd pay for this to go through the story again. But did I enjoy it? Yeah, I did. I did enjoy it. I'll be honest. I did. I mean, I completed it in 4 days. So I did enjoy it. I look forward to coming home, getting on, doing the missions. I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy it. But now that I've played it and I've done the main mission, I'm selling it. And there you go. And there's no longevity with this game at all. There's no reason for me now to go into explore. I got nothing from the characters to want to go and explore them. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, I did ramble, I get it, and I'm sorry. But for me, I didn't want to do a script because I know a lot of people do scripts and just go good to bad, points and points. I didn't want to do that. This was coming from the heart. That's just like the gayest thing I ever heard. But it's coming from the heart. It's how I feel. And I just thought I'd ramble it more so than actually do a script for it. So for me, I'd probably give this a 5 out of 10, which for me, 5 is average. So don't get it twisted. I know some of these other companies say if it's lower than 7, it's the worst game ever. No. For me, 5 is an average game. And for me, this is an average game. Average at best. If they fix the facial animations, and if they made the story stronger, if they delved into your team more, and so you got to really interact with the team more in the main story mode, then it may have got like a 7 or so. Because, as I said, the game looks wonderful, the combat's amazing, the abilities are really cool, and it's got a lot there. There's a lot for them to work on, and I think they can do it. I think if they can fix that, then maybe I'll come back to it, and maybe I'll try it multiplayer. But for now, I'm selling it. 5 out of 10. There you go. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, then please let me know. I'm sure I'm going to get some dislikes from you sort of try-hard Mass Effect people out there, the people that are hardcore players, which I'm not. But you've got to appreciate that I'm coming from a neutral position. I had no expectations coming in, and this game sort of met... Oh, no, it was lower than my expectations. My expectations were a bit higher based on the trailer, and it sort of didn't meet that. But I did enjoy the game. 5 out of 10. There you go. Enjoy.